Hello everyone, good evening. I'm Shreya Dhondia. So many of you right now watching this broadcast are dealing with a medical infrastructure that has completely crumbled under the weight of the pandemic and lethargy of the powers that be. Many of you have friends and family who, as we speak, are making desperate calls for ICU beds. Twitter is full of people sending SOS messages for oxygen cylinders and remdesivir. And then there are the doctors, overburdened, exhausted, terrified, helpless, and sometimes under attack by families who have lost a loved one. Here is a fact all of you should know. There is only one doctor for every 1,445 people in India. Yes, one doctor for every 1,445 people in India. And never has that shortage been felt as acutely and painfully as it is being felt right now. This month alone, ladies and gentlemen, 34 doctors have lost their lives to COVID. 734 in the last 1 year, according to the IMA, that's the Indian Medical Association. I'm going to show you the picture of one of them. This is a doctor called Manisha Jadhav. That's her Facebook account. We'll put that picture for you in just a bit as well. That's her. She's a TB specialist from Mumbai, a tuberculosis specialist from Mumbai. This Monday, she posted on Facebook, I'm quoting that, "Maybe my last good morning. I may not be able to meet you here on this platform. Take care all. The body dies, the soul doesn't. The soul is immortal." This is what she put out on her Facebook account on Monday. She was dead 36 hours later. As India passes through its most traumatic and difficult period after partition, its warriors are the men and women in white who face moral, ethical and personal dilemmas every day as they report for COVID duty. They make the very difficult choice of who gets that ICU bed and who doesn't, who gets oxygen, who doesn't, who gets remdesivir, who doesn't. Sometimes they make that most difficult choice of them all, who lives and who doesn't. I have India's top doctors with me today talking about the dilemmas the pandemic is making them face every day. Let me introduce them to you quickly. Dr. Jaleel Parker and Dr. Trupti Gilada are joining us from Mumbai. You know them, they are on television often. Dr. Surya Kant is joining us from Lucknow. Dr. Surajit Chatterjee is joining us from Delhi, a city that is choking, almost choking to death. And Dr. Ravinder Mehta is joining us from Bangalore. Dr. Trupti, before I come to you, I want to show our viewers a video of you that you had posted that had gone viral.
अब है और धीरे-धीरे बहुत सारे शहरों की और बहुत सारे स्टेट्स इवन टाउन्स की हालत ख़राब होते जा रही है। बॉम्बे की हालत तो इतनी ख़राब है कि हमारे हॉस्पिटल्स में आईसीयू बेड्स वेटिंग पे है, पेशेंट्स के लिए बेड्स नहीं हैं। इट्स अ वेरी वेरी हेल्पलेस, यानी मुझे इतना हेल्पलेस और लाचार कभी फील नहीं हुआ है। We have to literally manage patients at home with oxygen, and this is not something we are enjoying.
That video, of course, is a longer video, but I just wanted to give you the sense of frustration that Dr. Trupti Gilada was feeling on that particular day. Dr. Gilada, what pushed you to this breakdown?
I think this is something that we're all experiencing day in, day out while we battle with our patients for life and death in the ICU. All of us receive frantic calls from relatives, friends, begging for a bed, begging for oxygen, begging for medications. And all that we often have to tell them is, I'll try, and we often know that we will not be able to help them. And it's not common for a doctor to say, I will help you and not be able to help, and it's never happened that our helping has been limited by resources as basic as oxygen, as basic as a hospital bed. And I think that's a feeling all doctors or all people who work in the hospital are experiencing, and it's not something that we are used to, and we never want to experience it again. It just goes to show the enormity of this problem that we are in, which could have been so totally avoidable.
And you got a lot of backlash also, Dr. Trupti, after that video went viral. I was surprised. Were you surprised with this backlash? Here you were trying to
Yeah,
do
you
your
know,
best, telling people what doctors are going through, and what you got was a lot of negativity.
yeah, I mean, so this video was recorded actually for a very close circle of family and friends, and obviously it probably struck some chords with everyone and therefore was forwarded and got viral. But I received calls and messages saying that it's not right for a doctor to cry and break down. You're not giving the right morale to your people. Are you depressed? Are doctors getting depressed? And it's like, no, doctors have emotions. They are humans. When we lose a patient, it's not that we don't feel bad at all. It's just that we've learned to cover up our emotions and move on to the next patient, move on to saving the next life. It does not mean that we don't have emotions. We come back to our families with the same fear that people go back home after their work. Are we taking back this infection to our parents, to our grandparents? And we've done this for this entire 1 year, so much so that we've just got used to that feeling now. We've just stopped thinking about that fear at all.
Dr. Parker, you are someone who is, of course, way, way senior than Trupti. Trupti is a young doctor. You have seen many more deaths than her. You have seen many more diseases than her. What is your dilemma? Your personal dilemma, your professional dilemma, your ethical dilemma, and what's your big fear right now?
See, my personal dilemma is multifold. Number one is that we have gone through hell. It's more than a year. We are still going through hell. We have to satisfy our mental status. We have reached that stage that we have to go in every day to the same place, see the people suffering, see deaths, trying to explain to the relatives, trying to explain to the patient gasping, pleading to give him oxygen, pleading to keep him alive. That's number one. Number two, our dilemma is for how long is this going to continue? Number three is whether we are going to get the medications on time or not, and which is getting worse by the day. It's not improving. I can understand when in the first phase where COVID-19 was new, nobody knew anything, including ourselves. We went through a phase where we didn't know what to do. There were limitations. Every day there was a variation in the modality of treatment. Every day there was a variation in the test to be performed. Every day there was a variation in the diktats of the health authorities, whether they are central government, the Maharashtra government, the municipal authorities, etc. So everybody was confused, but everybody was trying their best. I don't deny that. Then the modality of treatments, they kept on wavering and changing time after time, days after days, sometimes after a week, sometimes after 2 weeks. So we didn't have answers to be given, which the patients and the relatives used to ask us, what were the answers? Because the literature also was doing flip-flop again and again, again and again. We had to go back and forth to what was happening in the Western world and what was happening over here right now. My concern is that, of course, the first wave is over. We thought that we had won the battle. We became a little complacent about it. And though we knew that the second wave was going to come, little did we realize that it would be humongous, much more than the first wave. Though the criticality initially was less, the elderly patients were getting involved in the first wave were more, but now we have the younger generation coming into.
Okay.
But at the same time, there was shortage of oxygen, there was shortage of remdesivir, there was shortage of tocilizumab. My concern is, what is a doctor supposed to do? What is a nurse supposed to do when a patient comes to us and we don't have oxygen, or we don't have remdesivir, or we don't have tocilizumab, whatever the medication
I agree with
would
you.
be? What is the answer we would give? And the wrath of the patient and the relatives, and to such an extent that we were to be blamed for everything, and the questions that were being pointed out was towards us, because we didn't want to get into the involvement of who has failed where.
Okay.
For
Yeah.
us as treating physicians, it's very important that we need to treat, we need to save lives.
Correct.
And that is a dilemma which is still going on in the minds of the people. The last but not the least is that at what price are we giving this back to humanity? Are we supposed to take the brunt of everybody? The relatives, the patients, people who sit behind closed doors on WhatsApp, the doctors, the Googleshwar doctors, the WhatsApp. I mean, who all's brunt are we supposed to take? Is it our fault? Is it my hospital's fault? No, I don't think so. It's not my hospital's fault.
It's not a
They are
doctor's
trying
fault.
their best. Yeah.
We have let you
Neither.
down. The country has let you down. The country's planners have let you down. There are people in places of position who needed to make decisions, the right decisions at the right time. Those decisions were not taken. The doctors are not to blame. They are to blame. Dr. Chatterjee, does this make you angry? What what Dr. Parker is saying so calmly, when I'm hearing him, it's making me angry. Does it make you angry that you have to make the decision about who gets to live and who doesn't almost every day?
The way we have been trained, that we were trained to save lives, we have to take a decision as to whom to. Dr. Parker was right, that we have to take a decision as to how much of oxygen is to be given to which patient, how to rationalize the oxygen, which patient is more important for us, who is important for the community, who is important for the family. This type of decisions we were not trained to do so. We were always trained to serve everybody at an equal level. That's what we were taught to do so. Now with this oxygen shortage happening, the bed shortage happening, we are in real dilemma. And you must have seen what happened yesterday to our hospital. One of the relatives almost vandalized the hospital yesterday. We were not expecting that. We were working 18 hours a day. We are working 20 hours a day. We are not sleeping. And then obviously with no fault of ours, because we could not provide a bed, or we could not really provide the essential thing, that after even doing the emergency treatment, we obviously could not provide a bed. All these things happened. We are not expecting, we are really working hard. We are not sleeping days after days. Last 10 days is we have changed totally what is happening. The way we work, the way we think, the way we do our work, everything has changed in our life in the last 10 to 15 days.
Dr. Chatterjee, in the last 10 days, what is the most heartbreaking decision that you have made?
I must admit that there was this lady whom I thought should be there in the hospital, because the oxygen concentration was very, very low. And I had to decide that this patient cannot be in this hospital, because if this patient comes into this hospital, then she would not make it. So I made frantic phone calls to different friends of mine, and I had to send her in an ambulance, obviously. But luckily, the patient survived over there. But that was a decision which, when I was really feeling bad, that what decision I'm taking. This patient should be in the hospital. We have all the equipment. We have everything with us. We have the treatment which is available, at least the latest treatment in our hospital that is available in the city, and I can't treat this patient. This type of decisions are very, very difficult to take. Yesterday, there was one of this Bangladeshi lady who has a lot of money with her in Bangladesh, was roaming around in the city in a three-wheeler looking for a hospital which can provide oxygen. Finally, they reached this hospital called Lady Harding. There they were given oxygen for about 2 hours, and after 2 hours, they said that you have to go to someone because we have to remove the oxygen. That lady was crying in desperation that, doctor, please save me. Please send me to a place which can provide oxygen to us. We were so much, I was just feeling that this national who has come from a different country is really roaming around the city without knowing anybody. She has no contacts, is crying desperately to save her life.
Dr. Surya Kant, you're joining us from Lucknow, a state that says that it has sufficient oxygen, and yet every day, even today, you have hospitals across Uttar Pradesh asking patients to leave because they simply don't have oxygen. Do you feel the system let you down? What's your big dilemma? आपको घबराहट होती है every time someone calls and says, Doctor साहब, आप तो KGMU में हैं, can you get me a bed? And you know you are helpless, you probably will not be able to help.
Actually, the first time in my history, as my medical career, first time we doctors are feeling helpless. First time we are feeling desperate. First time we are feeling hopeless. In the last 1 year, we have acquired a lot of knowledge about COVID infection, pathogenesis, treatment strategy, and so many things. This year, we acquired the vaccination program, and vaccination program is, of course, going up. After 2 days, the expanded vaccination program is coming. But the basic thing is that oxygen is called pran vayu. Actually, we can live without food for 3 weeks. We can live without water for 3 days, but we cannot live without oxygen for 3 minutes. The problem is this, that we are fighting this war with the crunch of the oxygen, which is the main treatment. Actually, remdesivir is the not game changer. Any Jumab, maybe any, of course, new drug or whatever you call, tocilizumab or any Jumab, it's not a game changer. The only game changer is the oxygen, and which is we are facing a lot of crunch. Every evening, we are breathless. We are holding our breath. What will happen this night if the tanker is not coming, if the oxygen is not coming? King George Medical University is catering now 750 COVID patients. We are the committed COVID hospital, and all are serious patients. Some are requiring more than 20 liters of oxygen per minute. Some are requiring more than 60 liters of oxygen per minute. Most of them, they are on ventilators, non-invasive ventilators, high flow oxygen. Can you imagine what kind of tension, what kind of apprehension we are facing? So this kind of scenario we have never faced in our medical, of course, career. But this is a pandemic. We have to work. We have to work with passion. We have to, and we are trying hard. Government machinery, everything is trying hard. We are always in with hot discussion, sometimes passionate discussion, sometimes request, sometimes frustration type of request to our health system personnel, including the ministers. And everybody is, of course, doing 100%. Maybe oxygen transport, maybe oxygen corridor facility, sometimes the air, of course, carrying the oxygen. Everything is going on, but still we are waiting, because every day we don't have the reserve for more than 3 hours. So after 3 hours, we have to hold our breath.
Oh my God!
So I think this is a very, very challenging situation. So, anyhow, we are managing it. Till date, we have not faced any crisis to the extent that we can lose the patient. So that is fortunate enough, and we pray to God that cases should come down. For last 2 days in Uttar Pradesh, cases are coming down. So we pray that the cases should come down, and of course the oxygen supply should go up.
So Dr. Surya Kant, you're essentially saying you've been sent into a war without a weapon. Your most potent weapon, oxygen, that itself is in short supply. So the sense of frustration and helplessness and breathlessness is perhaps understandable. Dr. Rabindra Mehta, you're joining us from Bangalore. In a situation like this, how does a doctor not give up and say, this is not worth it? You face the moral dilemma of carrying the virus back to your families. You have elderly people in your families, you have children in your families, you have people who are immunocompromised in your families. How do you go on every day knowing fully well that you can probably carry back the virus home?
Yeah, so that's another big challenge. I mean, I echo the entire sentiments of my colleague. In fact, Shreya, 2 hours before this, as we were fending off more calls for beds, and I just realized I made a statement that I've never said no in my life. 25 years of practicing in 2 continents, no was not part of the medical vocabulary. We're trained to say, yes, come in, let's figure out what we can do for you. And that integral part of the last pandemic, we at least were able to accommodate a lot more. Now, of course, that is a major issue right now, as my colleague said, and it leaves us with extreme heaviness, because you become bifurcated. On one side, you've got to be efficient, neutral, and committed to doing a job. On the other side, you are marginalizing your emotions as you say no to so many people, especially understanding that 30 to 40% of our ICUs are full of people less than 50 years of age. Now, going home, that's another issue. I think that's relatively the better part. The good part about this second wave has been that we're relatively prepared. I have seen a 22-year-old nurse who approached me last year, and she asked me, why do you want to do COVID when I have, everyone has a generation ahead, a generation behind, and a parallel generation. but this time healthcare is much better prepared. I see that my people are coming to the fore. There is less problems. The reporting sick is much lesser. The smiles are more because at least the emotional component is handled much better. We know the disease much better, and one of the strategies and this horrible rationing, if I can use that crude word for human life, is that we actually know where to put resources more when we have dwindling, scarce and challenging resources. So yes, it is a worry, but much less. That at least is a saving grace in this entire concern we have in this pandemic. At the same time, we just hope that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, the whole country, world ramp up leads to at least these discussions being behind us, so we can concentrate on saving the people who are coming to our doors in this once in a lifetime horrible situation.
By the time all of this ends, and we don't know when this will end, I think all of us, not just doctors, this entire country will come out of its scarred. Thank you very much. I'm going to thank Dr. Gilada, Dr. Parker, Dr. Chatterjee, Dr. Surya Kant and Dr. Ravindra Mehta for joining us. Just wanted to hear from all you doctors about what you are going through and the dilemmas you are facing. Thank you very much for joining us. Positive, but not down. A COVID patient from Madhya Pradesh has Twitter in splits after a very dramatic plea to hospital authorities to change the fan in his room. It ultimately did get changed. We are leaving you with that. Thanks for watching.
दोस्तों, ये मैं हूँ, ये छिंदवाड़ा ज़िले का सबसे बड़ा हॉस्पिटल में एडमिट हूँ। ये देखिए चारों तरफ का सीन क्या है। सब अपने अपने काम में व्यस्त है, और ये मेरे बेड के जस्ट ऊपर में एक विदेशी पंखा लगा है, जिसे देख देख के डर लग रहा है। कोरोना से डर नहीं लगता साहब, ये पंखे से डर लग रहा है। आप स्वयं देखिए। ये विदेशी पंखा रात भर सोने नहीं देता है। ऐसा लगता है अब गिरेगा कि तब गिरेगा। यहाँ पे स्टाफ को मैं कई बार बोल चुका हूँ, पंखा चेंज करवा दो भाई, या मेरा बेड चेंज करवा दो। हाँ, मगर कोई नहीं सुन रहा है। सब कहते हैं कि हमारा काम नहीं है। भाई मैं कोई करवाना पड़ेगा क्या चेंज, या मेरा बेड चेंज करवा दो। कोरोना से पहले मैं कोई पंखा ही निपटा देंगे लग रहा है। हाँ भाई, अब बताओ किसे चेंज करें। हाँ बताओ भाइयों, अब किसे चेंज करें? पंखा चेंज करें कि बेड चेंज करूँ, कि स्टाफ चेंज करें, कि सरकार को चेंज करें? आप लोग बताइए भाई, कमेंट्स करो और शेयर करो कि ये विदेशी पंखा किसकी जान लेगा।